Hello everyone, welcome back to Code Pravah. Today we are going to make this random colors generator app. This is a simple and mini project, but many learnings are on the way. It's a very helpful project for React learners, so let's get started. So I am into my VS Code where I have created one project with the name of random color gen. And in my app component, I'm just rendering one h1 tag with the text of hello world. So first thing I would like to do, I'll create one folder inside src directory with the name of components. And then I'm going to create my first component with the name of random colors generator. And I will initialize this component as a dummy component. And then inside my app component, I'm going to import this component and I'll simply remove this h1 tag from here. And instead, I'm going to render this random colors generator component. So it is being rendered perfectly fine. Now let's work on this component. So I'm going to remove this div and I'm going to create one div with the class name of container. And inside this div, I'm going to create one header tag. And inside this header tag, I'll create one h1 tag and I'll provide a text of random color generator. And just below this h1 tag, I'm going to render one button and the text I'll provide as generate colors. Now, after this header element, I'm going to create one div and I'll provide a class name of grid. And inside this div, I want to display my color boxes. So for that, I'll create one div with the class name of, let's say, color box, which will represent each box of the color. And inside this div, I'll create one span tag. And for now, I'm going to put some text that is some dummy color. Now, before moving on to the CSS part, I want to work for the functionality where I can populate multiple colors. So I'm going to import useState hook from React library. And then I'll create one state with the name of colors, which will be initially an empty array because I need a list of colors. Now we have to think about generating a random color. So I'm going to create one function random hex color. So what I can do, I can create one string, let's say characters, which are used in the hex color codes, and they are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then the starting of characters A, B, C, D, E, F. So using these characters, we can generate our hex color code, and then I'll create one variable which is color, and initially it will be an empty string. Now, in order to generate a color, we have to pick 6 characters randomly from this chars string. So I'll use a for loop and I'll run it from 0 to 6 because we need a hex color code of length 6. Now in each iteration, I'll generate a random index which will be from 0 to the length of character string. Now using this random index, I can get that random character and I'll append that into our colors variable. Now the colors variable is containing 6 random characters, so I can append a hash in front of this variable and I can return it, which will make it as a hex color code. Now this function is capable of generating a single hex color code, but we need a list of colors. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to declare one variable which will be constant and which will represent the number of color codes you want to generate. So for example, for now I'm putting it 16. It means I want to generate 16 colors. So I'm going to create another function with the name of generate colors. And what it will do, it will simply return an array. So I can use array constructor, and the length of this array I want as we declared into this colors variable. And the second parameter it takes is map function. So I can map on each item, which will be currently undefined. And for each index, I want to generate a random hex color code. So this function will return an array of 16 colors. Now we have a button to generate the color codes. So I'm going to create one function that is handle generate colors. And whenever this function will be called, I'm going to call set colors. And simply I can call this function that is generate colors, which will return an array of 16 colors. And then I can attach this function with this onClick event of this button. One more thing I would like to do here, I'm going to simply remove this color box from here because we need different boxes for different colors. So what I'm going to do, I'll use map method onto this colors array, and inside callback, I'll receive each color and index, and into the return, I'm going to simply paste that color box div. And in order to avoid the warning, I'll say key as index. And now we don't need to write a random text here. Instead, I can simply render my color. And one more thing I would like to do here, I'll add one style property, and into the style property, I want to add the background color, and the background color I want same as the color which we have generated. So now if I give it a try, if I click on generate colors button, you can see different 16 colors have been generated, but it is not looking the way we want. So I'll directly jump into my CSS, which is right over here. And I'm going to write the CSS for my container first. So I'll say display as flex, and the flex direction I want is column, and the min height I want to use is 100 VH. Then coming to the header, I want a padding of 20 pixels. The color of text, I want this one. And then I want to align my text to center. The next part is this button, which is inside this header element. The background for this button I want is green color. The border radius for this button I want around 10 pixels. The padding from vertical I want 16 pixels. And from horizontal I want 32 pixels. The color of text I want this one. Then I want to increase the font size up to 20 pixels, and I don't want any border, so I'll say border as none, and the cursor I want as pointer, which is giving it a better look. One more property I want to add here, that is hover effect on this button. In this case, I can simply say I want a darker green color, which is working perfectly fine. Now let's work on this colors grid. The first class on which I want to work is grid, and I'll say display it as a grid, and then I will say I want 4 items in my column. So I'll say grid template columns, and I want 4 columns, so I'll say 4 and 1 FR. And similarly in case of rows, I want 4 rows, and then I'll say flex as 1, and then I'll say flex as 1, which will occupy the whole space. Now we have color box, so let's work on these boxes. So I'll say position as relative, and the display I want to use is flex. And now I want to bring these text into center. So I'll say justify content to center and align items to center, which is bringing all the colors into center. Then I want font weight to be bold, and the color I want to use is white. I'll use the font size as 16 pixel. And you can see whenever I am clicking on this generate colors, the different color palettes are being generated. So I want to apply some transition property onto the background color. So I can say transition on background color, and I want to use 0.4 second, and the animation type is ease. So now if I click on this, you can see the changes are happening very smooth. The next part is this text color, which I can select using span. So I'll say I want to assign some text shadow to this text of, let's say, 1 pixel and 4 pixels, and the color I want to use black with the opacity of 0.5. So you can see there is some text shadow which has been applied, and just for the safety purpose, I'll say z-index of 1. Now I want to add one more feature onto these color palettes, that whenever I hover on this, I want to display one button by using which I can copy the color code. So let's go back to our random colors generator component, and just after this span tag, I'm going to create one div with the class name of overlay. And the idea is that whenever I am hovering on any of the color, an overlay should be created, and then a button should be appearing by clicking on which I can copy the color. So that's why I have created this div, and inside this div, I'm going to create one button, and I'll give it a class name as copy button. And for now, let's put a text as copy. Let's go into our CSS and let's work on this overlay class. And I'll say I want to use the position as absolute, and I'll say inset as 0, and the background color is black with an opacity of 0.4, let's say, and the display I want as flex. And similarly, I want to bring my button into center, so I can say justify content as center and align items to center. So you can see it has been positioned as we want, but we don't want it to be applied by default. By default, let's keep the opacity as 0. And I want to apply one transition on opacity, let's say 0.3 seconds, and the animation will be ease. Now, the question is when we will make this overlay visible. So I would say whenever I am hovering on this color box, then for this overlay, I'll say opacity as 1. So now if I go here and if I hover on this, you can see the overlay effect is working, but at the same time, I want to hide this color text. So I'll say whenever I am hovering on this color box and the text is written into this span, so I can select the span here and I'll say the display as none. Let's give it a try. If I am hovering on this, I can only see this button and no color text is there. And if I take my cursor away from this color box, it's working perfectly fine. Now let's work on this button part, which I can select using copy button class, which we just provided into random colors generator component. So here I'll say the background color is transparent. I don't want to use any background color, but I want to change the color of text, which will be this one. And then I want a border of 3 pixels solid, and the border color should be again same as the text color. The width of this button should be 100 pixel and the height of this button should be, let's say, 45 pixel. The cursor should be of pointer and the font size I want bigger, so I'll say 18 pixel. Let's give it a try and it's working perfectly fine. Let's create one hover effect on this button, so I can simply add it. And in case of hover, I just want to change my background color to black with an opacity of 0.4, and let's give it a try and it's working fine. So now let's work on the copy feature. So I'm going to create one state with the name of copied color, and initially it will be an empty string. And whenever I am generating the color, I want to set my copied color to an empty string because I don't want to take that color into the next page or next palettes which we are generating. And I'm going to create one function that is handle copy, which will receive one color which we have to copy. So I can use one property which is navigator.clipboard.writeText, and this writeText method will write the text on your clipboard which you can paste anywhere. And what I want to write on it is color, and I'll set my state of copied color as color. So let's save it, and then onto this copy button, I'm going to say whenever on-click event is being detected, I have to call handle copy function, and this requires the color which I am receiving via this map. So I can simply pass it from here, and then I want to render this text dynamically. So I'll say if copied color is same as the color which is rendering on this box, it means I have to say copied. Otherwise, I'll simply say copy. Now let's give it a try. If I'm here and if I'm clicking, it has been copied. And if I'm going on here, it has been copied. And if you don't believe me, I copied this one, that is 178. And if I paste it, you can see 178, this color has been copied. So one more thing I want to add here is a set timeout. I want to clear this copied color state after a particular time. So I can say set copied color. I want to make it empty. And after, let's say, 2 seconds. So what will happen now if I reload the page and if I generate some random colors, and let's say I copy this and I wait for 2 seconds, if you see, the state has been cleared. It does not mean that we have lost the color from our clipboard. It is still there. It's just a UI enhancement that the text has been changed to copy again. One last thing I want to add, if I reload the page, you can see it is looking very plain page. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to perform a conditional rendering here. Let's cut this div from here, and I would say if not colors dot length, it means it is the initial phase and there is no any color which has been generated. So in this case, I want to render one div with the class name of info, and inside this div, I'm going to put one h1 text with the text of generate random colors. But if there are the colors in the color state, I'm going to simply paste what we just cut a moment back. Then I'll go to my CSS and I'm going to write a couple of lines for this info. So I can say display as flex and justify content to center. So it has come into center. So now if I maximize my browser and if I click on generate colors, you can see it is looking like this, which is working fine as we are expecting. And the one thing I want to increase the number of colors. So I'll say I want to generate 20 colors. And one more thing I want to do, because I am into my full screen, I want to generate 5 items per column. So now if I go here and reload the page and I generate the colors, I am getting 5 color boxes in each of the columns, but number of rows are still 4, which is fine for me. And now I can play with the generation of colors. You can see different random colors are being generated and I can copy any color I want. So this was it about this project. Now what you can do into the next step. In next step, you can add few animations like flip animations onto the card. Whenever I click on generate colors, you can flip the card, you can generate the random colors, or you can generate the colors one by one, which will be giving it a very good look. If you really learned something new from this video, please give a like to this video, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe Code Pravah. And thanks for watching.